Okay, so you already know what I think about calories. This course is not about telling you what to eat and how to eat. It's about taking you through some concepts that might be tripping you up around your weight and your weight management. So the very first myth I'm going to try and push to the side is the calorie concept that calories in versus calories out will strongly influence your weight management. It has a bearing, but there's much more complexity to it than that. The concept calorie came around in the 1820s when a Parisian used it to explain heat engines. Heat engines, is that relevant to our body? I don't know. The amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 kilo of water by 1 degree centigrade was termed a calorie. By the 20th century, US popular culture had brought it into the nutrition world. But can an engineering construct explain the human body? I don't think so. We're not mechanical in the way a car is. The concept of calories in versus calories out is such a simple thing that a 5-year-old can understand. Expend more calories than you take in and you'll lose weight. So conventional dietetic wisdom suggests that if you cut calories by about 500 per day, you'll lose between 0.5 and 1 kilo of body mass per week, or body fat per week. But even the conservative American Society of Nutrition has said that these figures don't add up anymore. The actual rate of weight loss is generally much slower than that with more modern research methods. And how we measure calories is also very questionable. We're very reliant now on our cell phone apps, which, because it's in a nice digital black and white form, we think it's accurate. It's like when the new digital scales came out and you suddenly had 0.1 of a kilo of your body weight, so you automatically think it's accurate as opposed to this swinging dial. But the accuracy of cell phone apps is only as accurate as the information put into the equations behind the apps. And they're very, very variable. For example, recent research suggests that the number of calories in almonds has been misrepresented for many years by 10 to 20%. Imagine that apples and kale and bread and various different things have been misrepresented also for the last several years. If most of our food is 10% out in accuracy, that hugely affects the way that we actually, the figures that we get from these apps. But of course, it's also the information we put in. A medium-sized apple might be for one person something this size, but for somebody else it's this size. So the reporting that gets added into the app is very variable based on the operator's experience and knowledge. Research institutes use something called a metabolic chamber, which is a big room that people live in for a couple of days, and they can get very accurate information around calories. But unfortunately, most of us don't have access to one of those on a daily basis. But what I have mentioned is the accuracy of measurement. What about the complexity of the human body? I'll give you an example. I had a client a number of years ago, a very elite triathlete, and I used the calorie equations to figure out, okay, what's our daily need? And it came out at over 3,000 per day, and that was very conservative. It could have been 3,500 to 4,000. How much was she eating? 1,200 calories. Now, theoretically, she had an 1,800 calorie deficit every single day. Was she as skinny as a rake? No. She actually carried quite significant body fat, but meanwhile her muscle mass was depleting and she was getting stress fractures, which meant that her bone mass was being depleted as well. Okay, so that's an example of how the equations just don't add up if the physiology of the person is out of balance. Our genetics also hugely affect the way we deal with calories. Now, some people metabolize fats better and do better on a higher fat, lower carb diet. Other people metabolize carbs better and do better on a higher carb, lower fat diet. Others exercise and get a very obvious weight loss responsive to the exercise, whereas others can train for a marathon and literally not lose a sausage. It's quite disheartening for them, but these people do exist. And then the micronutrient ratios that we consume influences the calorie story. For instance, protein has a higher heat of combustion than carbohydrates, for example, do. So therefore, if you've got a higher protein diet, you're using more energy to actually digest and assimilate the protein, which affects your calorie equation. And then there's lots of other factors like our hormonal health, our blood sugar regulation, our lifestyle, our detoxification. These are all things that I'll be covering later in this course. There has been a fairly recent call to focus on the quality of our food more than the quantity of our food, and that's something I personally will stand firmly behind. I'll be talking about these issues in much more detail in the Big Brother course, 12 Steps to Wholesome Nutrition. But for now, I'd like to conclude on the calorie argument. The concept of calories in versus calories out as a measurement of weight management is archaic and should be flushed down the toilet.